Good morning. I was wrong. Yesterday on my live stream, we were doing some work on my BambuLab X1 here, and we discovered what I thought was the lack of thermal runaway protection on these machines. 7D. It's smoking. It's thermally running away without protection right now. It's smoking. There's smoke coming out of that. Okay, so we did some testing on the P1P, the X1 carbon, and I made the statement that the BambuLab was lacking thermal runaway protection, specifically for heaters not heating at expected rate. So we were doing some testing, and we essentially removed the thermistor from the heater cartridge, and I was telling it to heat up. And it would heat up for several minutes, 1 to 2 minutes plus. There'd be smoke coming out of it. Now it does have a PTC heater, which means it can't melt down, but it could still get to a temperature that's quite hot. And I stated on the stream that this is defective. It's missing the thermal runaway protection in the firmware. These machines are unsafe. And I'm coming out today to say that it does have thermal runaway protection. BambuLab just put out a blog post informing everyone of this. Let's see what they state here. So again, on their FAQ, it did state it had thermal runaway protection. That's all it does. It just says it has thermal runaway protection, no actual other information. So according to them, there are some safety things here. One of them is the PTC heater. It doesn't get above 400 according to them. I had somebody comment on, I can't remember if it was Twitter or YouTube, that they tested theirs and it gets to 450. So PTC heaters, there is some range there, but they cap out at a temperature. They won't melt down, but they'll still get hot. Remember, 400 degrees Celsius is still higher than the auto ignition temperature of PLA, which is 388 degrees Celsius. So they state that if this happens, the worst that'll happen is you'll emit smoke and basically burn off the filament in your hot end, if everything is in the proper state. We'll get to that later. And thermal runaway protection in software. Reality, there are multiple protections in place. The easiest case when the thermistor is unplugged from the connector. We tested this. It does error out correctly pretty much right away. They say 5 seconds here, if it's missing the thermistor. But the scenario we tested was it wasn't heating at the correct rate because it wasn't installed correctly. And they state that it does kick in. Thermal runaway does kick in after 3 minutes. I had no way of knowing that. I was operating under the assumption that the thermal runaway on these printers operates the same as every other printer I've ever used, where after, in Clipper's case, for example, 20 seconds, it'll shut down if things aren't heating up at the correct rate. Even Marlin, running on the lowly ramps in, I believe, 2014, would error out in like 20 seconds if something wasn't right, not 3 minutes. You can fact check me there if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I was expecting this machine to behave like every other 3D printer, not take 3 minutes. And I had no way of knowing it would take 3 minutes for it to kick in. Usually if it's getting to the point where it's smoking and run away and it's been a minute, I'm worried. I'm thinking something's wrong. I was under the assumption something's wrong. I just didn't let it run away for long enough. So why 3 minutes? Well, they state it's a very sophisticated thermal mode and the MCU is challenging and it's difficult for the system to understand external uncertainties. Perhaps the silicone sock was removed, and they give a few examples here. If your firmware can't detect it in 3 minutes, I don't think that's right. It should be much less than 3 minutes. Again, 8-bit ramps can do it in 20 seconds. So I don't really like these excuses here. And then they're like, well, it's okay. There is no fire hazard because, you know, the PTC heater can't run away. So let's run a little scenario here, just to see how safe it is. So let's imagine a scenario where you're printing and you make spaghetti. Okay, you get a big blob on the tool head, and you know what though? You just reached under there and you pulled it off. The sock came off too, but you know what? You got the blob off, and you know what? I'm gonna try again. You clean the bed off and you hit unload, and your mom called you and you walked out of the room because you're just unloading filament. You don't need to be there for that. Well, guess what? When you pull the sock off, it's a very good chance that the clip, which holds the heater and the thermistor in there, comes off with it. So if you're not paying attention, if you've never taken it apart, you don't know what you're looking at. You just pulled the sock off. On most other hot ends, it's held on with screws or clamping forces, not a little itty bitty clip. But regardless, now your PTC heater is just hanging there. And in this test here, it's sitting right against the fan shroud. And I just hit the unload, and let's see what happens. So it goes back there, and as you can see, the PTC heater is getting red hot, and now we got smoke. Now, luckily, the fan shroud is designed out of a plastic that can take the temperature. So all we've done is damage our fan shroud and melted a portion of it. Now, it did melt away from the PTC heater, so it wasn't in contact for the full 3 minutes. But if this had aired out in 20 seconds, we wouldn't have even damaged our fan shroud to begin with. So yeah, so that's basically the stance right now from Bambu is, yes, it does have thermal runaway protection. We've designed it to take 3 minutes to kick in, and it is safe. If you are using these machines, if you think that is a perfectly healthy time for thermal runaway to properly kick in, have at her, print away, be merry. Personally, I think 3 minutes is too long. I would like to see it more in line with every other 3D printing firmware that we consider the standard and the norm. So again, I do apologize. It does have thermal runaway protection, unlike how I stated on the live stream yesterday. Those comments were taking with the knowledge I had at the time, which was limited because again, there was really no way of me knowing other than letting it run away continuously until we reached 3 minutes that it would eventually kick in. I'm in my room in the basement of my house. I have a family here, I have a kid here. I wasn't willing to risk it to find out when something might happen. So yeah, so if you want to know more, link to BambuLab's post on their blog in the description below, and link to yesterday's live stream if you want to see the whole context of everything, also in the description below. Enjoy your day. Cheers.